Well, good morning. Breakfast with the Broker every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. We are at the podcast studio, Populi, and in Royal Palm Place. If you're in Boca, you certainly know it. But they're probably, if they're not in a town near you, they're coming. So we appreciate them setting this up, and Janine and Brian and all them. We certainly appreciate it. So we have a really, July has been a Boca month, meaning, kind of like localized, hyper local. And we're going to continue that now. And now, by way of Boca Raton, Florida, he's the director of development for Boca Helping Hands. He's been volunteering at Boca Helping Hands since 2012. He's a former member of Lynn's University Office of Development. He continues his community efforts by volunteering with Top Soccer, a community-based training program for athletes with intellectual, emotional, and/or physical abilities. He is a husband, a dad, a native Floridian, and he's not as scary as his name is. He's Steve King.
Hello, David.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Good intro. Good way to start a day.
Well, I thank you very much, and I appreciate you, doing all the community work that you do. Tell us a little bit about Boca Helping Hands and what they do for people.
So Boca Helping Hands provides food, medical, and financial assistance to meet basic human needs, as well as education, job training, and guidance to create self-sufficiency. So it's founded 1998. Basically as a soup kitchen right here in Boca Raton, where we think of affluence, but there is a tremendous amount of need here in southern Palm Beach County and Boca Raton. We've evolved from that soup kitchen to just feeding individuals locally to really providing a wide array of services to help people, as our mission statement says, help them with self-sufficiency, to break the cycle of poverty, providing other services like educational programs, which a lot of folks, when I tell them, think we only give them food, but educational programs, job training, mentorship, guidance. We do financial assistance. I know this is a real estate show. We do offer individuals who have a plan to make payments, who need help with utilities or rent, some assistance with that as well. So really it's a full scope of services to hopefully help individuals break the cycle of poverty and become self-sufficient and independent.
Yeah, I mean, we had a great opportunity to volunteer and kind of see how, your amazing volunteers and what they do, and your staff has been incredible and certainly welcoming to people that come in. And tell us a little bit about how you fund Boca Helping Hands and in the community and such.
It's an interesting question that I think a lot of people, I guess, don't think about or look at. We do get a lot of donated food. I think last year we got just over 3 million pounds of food donated that we redistribute to individuals. We get it from suppliers like Publix, Walmart, Costco. Local restaurants have been fantastic, like the Addison, Capitol Grill, country clubs. We get a lot of that food recovery. We have 5 trucks that are driving around town, or really southern Palm Beach County, picking up and delivering those food items. On the other side of that, it's essentially fundraising. We have some grants. Most of them aren't federal. We get very little federal funding at all. Most of it's private individuals, and private family or local foundations have been incredibly supportive over the years for us.
That's amazing, because when you go in there and you see the crates of food and people packing, and putting everything away, and they all have a system, and it really is great to see. How do people get involved in Boca Helping Hands?
So through our website, that's the way I got involved. That's the way we still do it. You just go online, you fill out I guess it's an application, if you want to call it that, to volunteer. Our volunteer coordinator will reach out to you, find out what area you'd like to volunteer in. Like I said, I was volunteering and I was loading cars with food through the pandemic. I absolutely loved it. You got to talk to the people as you loaded their car, you know, hear their struggles, hear their thanks. Most of the people, almost all, were incredibly appreciative, kind, hardworking people coming from or going to a job. Almost all of our folks are working. They're just underemployed where they can't meet full, pay their rent and take care of their kids and daycare and all those other things. So those areas, we have job mentors. We have some individuals who help with training programs. But the majority of the volunteers that we get come in and help us with the food intake. We have to sort it, kind of inspect it, and then the redistribution component of that. We also have 5 locations. A lot of people don't know that. We distribute East Boca. We have a site in West Boca open on Saturdays. We distribute in Delray Beach, Boynton Beach, and Lake Worth. So we have the 5 sites where we're doing pantry bag distribution. We do hot meals on weekdays here in the East Boca. We'll do about 250 to 300 a day. And up in Delray, we do another Friday evening dinner service up there it's varied from 175 to almost 250 some nights. So those are the big components for volunteers.
How do you get involved with, you've fallen on hard times, and certainly the pandemic is hurt many. And, you're looking to, I mean, because we're all prideful, right? And, as you said, they're very hardworking. They just might be underemployed. How do you get involved in receiving those pantry bags?
So the pantry bag program is restricted to Palm Beach County residents. And if somebody will come in from Broward, we'll provide them with some information on where to get the services in Broward. Part of that is our relationship with different food banks that provide for certain areas. So the pantry bag program, you come in, you register, you provide us simply with information that shows that you're on a federally approved food program. And we sign you up based on the number of individuals in your household. So per month, if you have 3 people in your household, you get 3 bags. And a pantry bag will be a full brimming to the rim pantry bag. Our board of directors wanted to make sure that we have a specific standard of food items in there that gives a kind of a well-rounded blend. So a lot of the stuff that we do purchase is to make sure that is always there. We can't rely on donations to be specific and have that component in there. And then we give a large bag, usually of produce. We have agreements sometimes, depending on time of year, with local growers to give fresh produce as well as meat. So the pantry bag really is much more substantial than what it sounds like. And then the lunch program we do, anybody can come through here 6 days a week in the East Boca location and get lunch. It's a hot meal plus usually it's almost 2 meals. It's usually a full hot meal. And then we'll give like sandwiches and, what people would consider a traditional lunch. So they have something later as a snack or dinner.
That's really amazing. And, you mentioned that, federally approved, food program. How do people apply for that?
So that you can go online and do that. We actually will provide assistance with people trying to apply that are having a difficult time applying for SNAP benefits. So we will do that for them and give them assistance with that. And that's, again, kind of part of this whole job mentoring. Again, we provide job training in 12 areas, but the other component of the job training is really the mentorship. Some people don't necessarily need the training. They need help writing a resume, interview skills, or signing up for benefits.
What, I mean, the pandemic obviously hit a lot of us hard, and certainly, in Boca, people look at it as an affluent, community and such. But when you're looking at, the pandemic really hurt, people that are, middle class and potentially, less. What, has did the pandemic help or hurt do you see the amount of people increasing post pandemic, or was it about the same?
Well, during the pandemic, it picked up significantly. Um, and what's happened is we typically turn over, if you look at an individual or family who comes in, they usually stay about a year, and turn over. And we find that to hopefully mean that they found the ability to make ends meet without our additional services. Um, and that this is typically for food distribution, pantry bag, and lunch. Um, but it seems like a crisis upon a crisis. I mean, if you look at our economy down here, it's service, right? It's retirees and service industry, and then affluent communities from real estate to dining. So that service sector is, one bad week away from needing services immediately, if not continually. And then the senior community really has been a sad component. I look at our car line when I go out there. That working individuals are working. Hopefully they'll come again. Job training programs. We'll pay for their education and go get a commercial driver's license. They'll go out and start working. A senior's not going to do that. Real estate wise, I'm sure you guys are looking at condos, and the new assessments are going to start coming out after Surfside. Inflation has harmed especially the seniors who are on fixed incomes. It doesn't keep up. Rents up 20% year over year. I mean, you can just go down the line and look at the things that are impacting those individuals. It impact you and I, but not to the same extent where we're now making decisions on if we're eating or not. So the seniors are the part that really are discouraging to me. That community really is stayed consistent, if not picked up at the back end of the pandemic as much as in the front end. So that's a little bit discouraging.
Yeah, I mean, you start to think about, yourself and making decisions, and I think something you said resonated with me. It doesn't affect the decision of, maybe it affects the decision of going out to eat or not, but it doesn't affect your decision of whether you're going to eat or not.
Yeah.
And and it's important to help your community because without your community being prosperous and helping those that can't help themselves at this time, just need a little push, need a little mentorship, need a little food. It's important to be part of this community. Certainly, and I welcome, all these volunteers and certainly appreciate all that you do with Boca Helping Hands. You were with Lynn University prior, correct? And my daughter is going to she's a rising senior, so she'll be a senior next year, and she's going into college. And I don't know if you could elaborate on Lynn University and maybe your time there.
Sure. So I'll give you the short of the long story. I went to Lynn University when it was College of Boca Raton.
Yeah,
So
I remember
you
that.
do the math, you can figure out how old I am. Met my wife there. She was a Swedish tennis player, came over here, and I was a kid struggling to get through and got a lot of assistance from the university to do that. I didn't have the means to pay to go there at that time. So when I graduated, I was offered an opportunity to stay on and work and go get a master's degree from a university in New York at the time. So I stayed on work there for 2 years, got an MBA, and left to go into banking, commercial real estate, financing home builders, ironically. And did that for almost 20 years in banking. So through that period of time, up through 06, 07, 08, and beyond, I was working portfolios out for the bank. And really didn't want to be in banking anymore after the recession and 20 years into it. So went back to Lynn and worked in their development office. We had stayed engaged because of the, this assistance and help both of us got. We both were scholarship kids. So I felt like that would be a great way to finish my career, was working with and helping the university that helped us through. I love Lynn. I love President Kevin Ross, wonderful guy, known him for years, and everything in the mission of what they were doing. The pandemic hit, I left, but I wanted to be retired, but being retired during the beginning of the pandemic was literally sitting at home and looking at your wife who's working and your daughter who's working, and it wasn't a retirement. And I started re-volunteering here 4 days a week, loading cars with boxes. And that led to trying to help them do some legacy giving work with some volunteers here. And that kind of just morphed into coming back full time and doing this director development thing here at Boca Helping Hands. And I couldn't ask for a better situation where I would have volunteered and probably done it for free, but I didn't tell them that.
Yeah.
Um,
You're live, right?
yeah, I know that. But yeah, so Lynn, wonderful university grown. Good luck to your daughter. It really, again, it helped my wife and I get to where we are in life right now. So I couldn't say anything but positive things about the place. Love it. And it's beautiful now compared to when we went there. It is beautiful.
Oh, it's gorgeous. I mean, I went to Pine Tree Camp. We're talking. I'm not gonna. Well, I might date myself, but I think I was like 8 or 9. That's 40 years ago.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and
Yeah.
and how those camps have evolved, and how Lynn is continually building programs and whatnot. And I mean, you're looking at FAU. I mean, a vibrant community in Boca. I mean, you've been here obviously a long time as well. To see the changes and the prosperity that our amazing community has gotten. I mean, you know, I mean, there was nothing at the end of Glades in Palmetto Park Road.
Right.
I think that's where we had our bonfires.
Yeah. Well, and Lynn was College of Boca Raton, was very
Sure.
small, had 1 or 2 really successful majors and a couple others. FAU was originally was a 2-year junior senior. Watching the evolution, and it's interesting. Folk Helping Hands. You talked about volunteers. We get a large, I don't know what percentage it would be, but of volunteers from, I call them partner non-for-profit agencies that just really work well together. FAU and Lynn's athletic programs, as well as fraternities, sororities, really provide us during the academic year when they're here a tremendous amount of volunteer manpower. We have a program that we send weekend meals home for kids. So we have to package boxes with weekend meals that we send to 12 partner elementary schools here locally. And on the weekends, they send them home for those kids who are on the school lunch program. So on the weekends, they may not have food. The FAU, I think it's women's beach volleyball, did like 200 boxes in an hour. We've had corporate groups come in, some of the smartest people in town, and challenged them with that box count. And I don't think any of them have even gotten to half of it. So I think it's the women's beach volleyball team at FAU is like the volunteer stud group of packaging boxes.
That's awesome. And, we have so many volunteers around, helping, kind of pull up this amazing community and continue to do great things. Tell us a little bit about, I love soccer. I'm a big soccer fan. I think I played in the first Mayor's Cup. Now they don't really do that anymore.
I think they do.
Well, they don't. It's weird. Like it used to be that you played like West Boca and East Boca, like Sabre and GBYSA. They don't do that anymore.
Really?
Yeah, it's been like I think 10 years since they did. I think 2 people got in a fight, and that was the end of that. So
really,
we're trying to bring it back. Maybe we'll get it back next couple.
That was a big deal. I remember my kids got to do that, and they'd play like all-star games against each other, and that was a big deal. Really elite.
And then they were asking, they were messing with people because they were like, "Oh, well, you're stacking your teams," and it's just, kind of
adults get in the way of kids having fun.
100%. Because I remember those. I mean, that was a big deal. The mayor came, obviously, and certainly, we had a lot of press, and then when Pat Treef opened up those bleachers, it was like you're in a stadium kind of thing. So yeah, it was a big deal. So I volunteer coach in GBYSA, and it's just so much fun seeing those kids, run around, getting some technical skills. Now you volunteer in a different organization. Tell us a little bit about Top Soccer.
So Top Soccer, I got involved, I don't know, 12, 13, I don't know how many years ago. My kids, we were playing, Sabre soccer, doing that, enjoying it, and kind of the same reason I came to Boca Helping Hands. I saw my kids realizing or thinking they lived in a community that was solely their community that they lived in. And I wanted them to be exposed to just some different things and round them out as people. But I tried to get them into Top Soccer, which is a program for kids with disabilities. It could be physical. Most of them have a physical disability. And it used to be a lot more kids. They've opened up some new programs. I think West Boca now has their own program, but originally it was probably 200-300 kids out there on one day at Woodlands Park. The program goes from mid-January for 8-9 weeks, every Saturday, and it's another volunteer-driven program. So what they do is they pair a abled kid with one of the program kids as a buddy. And that's what I wanted my kids to be exposed to, that component. So at their age, I had to coach in order to allow them to be able to be a buddy. So I started coaching and I've continued coaching. I started helping them fundraise a couple of years later when the adults got in the way of the fun again. So a buddy and I decided that if we fundraise for it, we could have a lot more fun and we could do, the program could really, we could have character day and bring Disney characters out there. We could pay for photographs for every player. The program's 100% free to the participants and the families because they've got enough to deal with. So we started doing that, and kind of that's continued on. It's a fantastic program. If you have a child that's in high school, I would strongly recommend they sign up to be a buddy. It's amazing the transformation from kids who've never been exposed to other people with disabilities to after they're done, they're comfortable with it, they empathize with them. And I know my kids, at least my daughter coming out of it, one of her first comments was, I want to go be a special needs school teacher. She was that moved by that experience and working with that community that she wanted to help and continue on. She went away to college, did her thing, came back, now works in commercial real estate finance. And all she wanted to do was come back and be a coach. So she last year was a coach for the first time in Top Soccer. And
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm her assistant coach now. I'm not a full-time coach. I'm an assistant coach.
I got the pleasure to coach with my daughter who's high school as well, but in GBOISA, and it's so much fun. And
yeah, it really is.
It's just volunteering those hours and giving back to the community, and especially in the special needs community. Because it's important. Like you said, your kids need to be well-rounded. They need to understand that, they're always going to be more fortunate than some and less fortunate than others. And you certainly need to, round them out and understand that, not everyone has the gifts and maybe the abilities that you have. And, giving back is so important.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I always end the conversation on two questions. One is, what's your favorite streaming series of all time? And what are you currently watching? At least put people on the spot.
I guess the favorite streaming series of all time is probably Breaking Bad. I don't know if I'd watch it again. It was, that thing, it had a lot in it. It had a lot in it.
It was very clever. Yeah, no, they did a really, really good job. What are you currently watching?
You know what? I don't even know if it's streaming. It's on like FX. I think it is streaming now on Hulu. But The Old Man, I think I just resonate with it because I look at the guy. I think he's Jeff Bridges, and he looks really decrepit and old, like I feel. But he's still kicking some ass, So it gives you that feeling, like the old man can do it. I can do it. So I just started watching that. I think it's 5 episodes in.
The Old Man. All right, that's good stuff.
I read a little bit more than I watch, but that one's the one.
You want to give us a book recommendation then?
Oh,
see, I put you on the spot.
The book I recommend everybody reads Boomerang by Michael Lewis.
Yep.
Financial crisis book, but great about societies and peoples. The book I'm reading now, I don't know if I'd recommend, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. My son turned me on to it. It's so far over my head, it's not even funny. The only part I get is the motorcycle maintenance part, which is kind of a tertiary part of the book.
Right.
So
that's awesome, Steve. I can't thank you enough for all you do for the community. Specifically, in Boca Helping Hands, and I encourage people to get, whether they're in Boca, South Florida, or across the world, get involved in your community, help out, lend a hand, and continue to prop up your community that you live in. So we
right.
appreciate it. Listen, Breakfast with the Broker every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Next week, we have Hava Holzhauer. She is running for U.S. Congress, and we will be talking to her. She is in our district, so we will see what she has to say. We won't get involved in too controversial issues. We'll get involved in real estate and how it affects real estate, as well as our community. So looking forward next Tuesday, Hava Holzhauer at 9 a.m. Steve, thank you so much. Boca Helping Hands always bring great stuff to the community, and thank you for all you do. Take
Thank
care,
you.
guys.